welcome to the session. Let me start the screen share. Right. So I hope everyone can see the presentation.
Yes, we can see the presentation.
All right, great. Okay. So yeah, I'm Himash Singha. So I'm a senior software engineer at 99X Technology. A little bit of background on me. So I have about 5+ years of experience, in the area of mobile application development. I started my career with native Android development. I think I can use these terminologies since you all have, since this is like the second session, and you all have a bit of an understanding on the different types of application, mobile application development. And later on, I kind of got into cross-platform development and hybrid mobile app development. So I think I have a bit of experience and good good kind of lessons for you all to which I can share with you all, hopefully. So yeah. So how I've broken this down is into sort of a few steps where you can pick from the development environment onwards into kind of getting an application up and running. So the first step is the development environment, and what I mean by that is we have actually 3 choices. And when you are a mobile developer, this is a bit of a question which which people, developers, kind of start thinking. Okay, especially because we kind of develop applications for Android devices, for Apple devices, and generally what happens is we can't develop for Apple devices on Windows machines or even a Linux machine. So then some developers early on, they kind of get a bit disheartened. I can't, without getting an Apple device, Apple computer, I can't sort of get into iOS development. So likewise, there are a few questions which may arise, and you will need to kind of figure out what you are going to do. So to help with that, I kind of thought of giving you all a bit of an insider view, or sort of a professional tip as well. So the overall is, so when it comes to the Windows environment, we are kind of limited with only Android development. And when it comes to Mac OS, we have the best option there, so we can develop for Android as well as iOS. And when it comes to Linux, it's the same as Windows. We can only develop for Android. So when I have kind of indicated at the bottom here in terms of a $sign, like in terms of the cost. So like when you are a beginner, or like you're just starting out into development, sometimes going into an Apple environment is not very feasible, unless like you are working for a company and you are provided with the equipment. It's all right. But if you're like starting as a freelancer or on your own, even you're learning by yourself, this is something which you need to consider. So Linux might be the best option, and Windows, and Mac OS is the perfect environment. So the pro tip I wanted to give was, if you look at the market share of mobile operating systems, which is Android and iOS. So about 5-6 years back, when I started my development, we had actually a couple of more mobile operating systems, which is BlackBerry and Windows Mobile. And as of today, I think for good, we are only dealing with Android and iOS, and which is actually for a developer, it's much more convenient. And coming back to my point, so if you look at the Android market share in the world when it comes to the smartphone market, Android has a market share of 72%, and iOS only has 26%. So if what this means is, in simple terms, is like if you're going to start, making a mobile app and you're going to release it out to the public, there's a better chance of your app being available to Android users than iOS users. So, like I mentioned previously, when you're starting out, if you are kind of having a bit of difficulties in getting up with the development environments, it's fine. You can kind of go on this Android first and then iOS approach. So what I mean by that is you can first build your app targeting for the Android platform, and you can do your development on Android and get it out to public. And once it starts picking up, or like there's actual users getting onto your application, then you can start thinking about building for iOS. So that was a little bit of a insider tip which I wanted to give, because this is something which even I came across when I started beginning my app development sort of learning, as well as my career as well, because I also did not have access to an Apple device. And yeah. Okay, so let's go on to step 2, which is understanding the basics. So this is a little bit of kind of trying to break away from what is a mobile app and what is different. What sets a mobile app different from, say, a web app, or even a responsive web app, if some of you all are familiar with that term. So this is a question. So I would like, not just a question, it's kind of a statement which I would like, if I would like the audience as well, if you all can provide some feedback to this. So when you talk about a mobile app, what sets it apart is it runs on a smartphone. So what is, I think, significant about this line is that a smartphone is primarily a phone. So what I mean by that is, a phone, the basic functionality of a phone is to make calls, and make and to do messaging. By making it a smartphone, we're actually allowing it to do things much more capable than it was intended to do. So if you take the phone aspect out of it, we can, we have apps, apps which we can, we have things like checking our email, doing video calls, and like doing what do you call, making videos and all sorts of things. So what we need to understand is, this smartphone it's a mobile device, in the sense we carry it around, like it's in our pockets, we take it out almost all the time, we check on it like maybe every few minutes. And also when it comes to connection, so nowadays every smartphone is connected to the internet, and it's one of the things which makes it smarter as well, because we always have internet connection. So there's data coming in and out of the device. So all the applications which is running in the phone, can sort of update itself, sort of tell you what's going on. So this device, and it also has a battery, which is not going to run you the entire day. So in the morning when you take your phone, it might be on 100%, and end of the day it might be at around 40%. So it's a very different device to sort of like a computer, like a desktop computer, or a personal computer. So in that context, when we talk about a mobile app, there are a lot of things we need to think about when we are sort of getting into development. So like the first thing I mentioned is this is a very mobile device, so it will be taken everywhere. Sometimes somebody might be using your app, they might be checking on something, and at the same time they might get a call, and then they'll leave your app and talk on the answer the call, and maybe even after the call is done they might not even come back to your app. So that is the kind of sort of a different operating user environment we have when it comes to mobile apps and sort of web applications. So web applications, they are run on a desktop or a laptop and on a browser, and like most of the time, like while you're doing interacting with that, you're not going to have much other things coming in your way. Uh, and also another thing is like these phones are we have a lot of different types of phones in the market. So a thing which we always have to think about is the performance. So by performance, what I mean is, like, for example, sometimes my application might run really well on one particular phone, but on another phone it might have some slowness or like certain issues which we might not see. So when it comes to testing, like when we are checking if this application is running smoothly, those are also things which we need to factor in. So you don't have to like sort of think about this at the moment, but this is just a little bit of a different perspective which I wanted you all to sort of think about when it comes to mobile apps. All right, so I thought of going into a bit of a walkthrough on a kind of a well-established application, which is the YouTube mobile app, and to sort of focus on user experience and user interface design. So when it comes to mobile app development, one of the key areas is user experience and user interface. So what we mean by these two is that the user interface is mainly what we see on the screen. So like the buttons and anything which you interact with is part of the user interface. And user experience is pretty much how that is presented to you. So like, for example, if there is a video going to be played, like, okay, is that video going to be played zoomed in, or like is it going to be shown small, and then the user can click and maximize it. So like that, the user experience side of it covers it. So let me kind of walk through this. So I'm sure everybody here has used this application, and like I don't have to go through this much, but so if I just take the screen, if you look at this, there is a very kind of in terms of design, there's a very clear separation. So I will go through each of these different areas as well. So in an overview, if you take this particular screen, we have kind of this is called like the home screen. So when you first open the app, this is what you see, and we have a list of videos here, as well as some menu items, and as well as branding here. So this is kind of all done based on user UX and UI, which is user interface and user experience best practices and guidelines. So what I wanted to tell you all was that basically when you're getting into mobile app development, this is one of the key areas that you need to sort of look into. Sometimes we might have an idea like, okay, this is what I want to do with my app, but if you don't present that well to your audience, they might not really understand what's going on. So for example, if you take this screen, we know that, like, okay, if I click on one of these images, something is going to happen. Because the way it's presented. And when you click on it, you are taken to another view where the video starts to play back, and then there are other buttons, and like even buttons which have icons, they have a description, so that sometimes the icon alone may not give you an idea exactly what it does, but the text kind of makes it more descriptive and more clear. So likewise, those are the things which are part of mobile app development, because we are dealing with a very small and limited space. So this is also another clear difference between web apps and mobile apps, is that we are dealing with a very constrained, a very limited screen space. So we have to maximize it. We have to sort of use every possible space we have to sort of make our app useful to our users. And so YouTube is an app which has existed for a long time. I think they have done, if you see, they have like 5 can't even read that. So they have so many installs, and basically this is something which gets updated a lot, because there's a lot of users using this. They are always monitoring feedback to see how the users are using it, because if for any reason the experience in this is not great, people are not really going to kind of use this application. So that is another reason where user interface and user experience matters, because the mobile environment, it demands kind of the users to sort of be like always come back to your app. I think this is something which you all will later learn on when you all get into development, is that we have to always engage with the users through our app. They have to sort of be interested to come back, and that is one thing. So the next slide I have is basically giving you a bit more of an understanding on these elements. So like I said, we have kind of a menu here, and then we have a list of videos, and then some branding likewise. So these are all actually structured. So when you are going to develop an app, all these different items are available for you. So for example, if you take this toolbar here, this header with the branding and some icons, that is available for you, which you can use in your application, and you can sort of access, and you can say, okay, I want this icon to be here, I want my logo to be this. All that can be done. So one of these, when it comes to Android development, so I will be kind of a bit focusing on Android development today in today's session, because like I said, we can take an Android first approach when we are beginning our development. And this guideline called material design is done by Google, since Android OS is part of Google, and they are the ones who are maintaining it and developing it. They also kind of give the developers the software development kit for Android development. And this particular guideline called material design, it's something which, if you're an Android developer, it's something you need to look into. And so let me go into this. So components is like what I said. It's basically the building blocks for creating a user interface. So like I mentioned, when we take this user interface, it's built up of different components. And this particular documentation has pretty much all the components which we can use for our app is listed. So I will go through a couple of them. Let's take this one. Right. So like I mentioned, in the YouTube app, we did see something like this, which is this one here. So that is called in Android terms an app bar. And as you can see, once you go through this documentation, they explain to you like, okay, what is what should go into the app bar, what you can do with it. Like you can see here, you can even put a picture onto the app bar. You can have more menu icons. So like in the YouTube app, we don't see any sort of menu options here. We just see the branding. So likewise, there are variations as well, because not every app is the same, and your requirement is going to be different to somebody else's requirement. And likewise here, these are the options, the menu options, like what we saw in YouTube. So for a developer, especially a mobile app developer, we have really good documentation. So it's just knowing where to find this and sort of taking a bit of your time to go through it. And what's good is we can experiment with all of this in code as well. So you can play around with it and see how it all works. If I'll go back to another one, yeah, let's go to buttons, which is quite easy to understand. Yeah, so even they have interactive demos here. So you can see like the different types of buttons which are available. So for example, if I take the YouTube app, so this is how you can sort of compare with what is out there in the application stores, and what's available to us. So you can see in the YouTube app, this is actually a button, but that button has an icon, and you can see that as well here. So it's the same sort of button, which is just a text button with the leading icon. So it's the same here. So in your application, if you're going to have something like this, you would have a button like this. So as well as the usage is also clearly defined. So this guideline will tell you how and like what are the best practices when it comes to using these components. So it's really good. So like just when I started development, we didn't have such design components and this kind of component libraries. It was much more simpler, and like we had to. So if, for example, if I wanted to build a button like this, we would have to do it ourselves. But now it's all provided. So with a little bit of more customization, we can kind of get it the way we want. So like if you want it like this, it's a little bit more easier. Yeah, so this is certainly something which you will definitely kind of spend time, I think, before you all get into development. So my point was with this understanding the basic step was, before you are going to development, it's very important that you all understand what kind of what is needed to build a mobile app. So more than the coding part of it, you need to know, okay, what goes into the app. So like the buttons, the UI elements, the components, and even a bit, sometimes the user experience, you might not be able to learn all of that, but a little bit of understanding of it would certainly help you at this point. So that is why I wanted to cover that part. Right. So without much further ado, so I will kind of go into the hands-on demo. So this is very simple. Actually, it's what you call it's something which we will do using Android Studio. And I will share the slides as well, hopefully. So if you're going into development, into Android development, you will need a few things, which is, as I've listed here, in 3 steps, which is the Android Studio and SDK tools. So nowadays, like everything you need for Android development, you can just get it in one file pretty much, which is great. So you just you don't have much of a setup to do. But if you are setting up your machine for the first time, like you might have to install Java and the other dependencies, which will take a bit of time, but you will find out those instructions, which is not an issue. So Android Studio, if I will give a small overview on this, this is basically what we call an IDE, or development environment, integrated development environment. This is designed and kind of primarily made for Android app development. So as you can see in this screenshot here, we can see an image of the UI. So this is something like what I was showing earlier. And on the left-hand side, you can also see the actual code. So we kind of have a system where what we code, we can kind of see on the UI on the right-hand side. So any changes you do, anything what you're adding to the screen will be reflected. As well as, yes, so you have a visual layout editor. So you don't have to do everything by code. You don't have to like sort of, so this is XML, because Android UIs are designed using XML, but we can kind of go with a design, with the design only layout as well, and kind of drag and drop everything onto the screen and kind of design the UI there as well. So sometimes when you're beginning development, you might find the XML a little bit hard to understand, or like a bit difficult to grasp. But and you might prefer the visual editor, which is totally fine. That's how a lot of us started out. But once you are very thorough with this, like the XML layout will be much more faster to design the UIs. Also, there are some other things which at this point is not useful for us. Also, we have some other dependencies which is very useful for us when it comes to development. So this is one is called Visor. So it is pretty much, so if you all are having your own smartphone and you want to kind of run your app on your own phone, and what this does is it kind of mirrors your phone onto your desktop. So like you don't have to interact with the phone on the desk or whatever. You can have it like coming up on a window on your screen itself, and like you can even click on this icons and it will just interact the way it is. So this is very useful, especially when you're doing quick development. Like having everything in one screen is really helpful. The other one is called Genymotion. It is actually also useful if you don't have actual devices, because there are a lot of Android devices. Sometimes you might not have devices to test, or so we can actually use something called an emulator. So what an emulator is, it's pretty much it's a software which is replicating the actual Android device. So you can just run it on your computer, and it's running the full Android operating system, and you can run your application on that. So this is also a good approach. There is a free plan for this, you can use it for your personal work. Anyway, when we talk about emulators, when you use Android Studio and when you install it, they do provide a built-in emulator. So this is actually the more preferred option for you all to use. You can use the built-in emulator, and Genymotion is just another option. So it's always good to have multiple options when you're developing. And also resources for further learning. So this is, so once you're, like I said, once you get into development, you all will have a lot of questions. You all will have, okay, how do I do this? You know, how do I make this button, you know, look green or red or whatever? Maybe sometimes you might not figure out. So for that, we have the Android developer documentation, which is really, really, really advanced in terms of like they cover a lot of areas. In like, even you can see here, build your first app, and then they have things called code lab tutorials where they kind of have different sessions, like, you know, with different like real life examples. So all these are things where you can sort of get into once you're, you know, start developing. Yeah. So if you're doing Android development, so I'm not going to completely focus on Android. So I will also talk a little bit about cross-platform as well. So if you are going for Android at the beginning, this is certainly one area which you will definitely need to go into. Right. In terms of cross-platform as well, I'll quickly touch on that as well. So React Native is something which I think I would recommend to all of y'all, those who are going into cross-platform mobile development. So I think you all have a bit of an understanding on cross-platform from the earlier session, so I will not go into that at the moment. So React Native is also very similar to Android. If you, like I mentioned, all these mobile app frameworks kind of cover the same areas. Like if you look at the components I talked about, the UI components, even React Native provides. The only difference is here we are only kind of developing once. Like our code, we will write, say for example, what you see in this screen. I will write it once, and you know, I'll be able to run that on iOS and Android. So it's a little bit of in terms of the components and even the programming language, what we're using here is different. It's JavaScript. It's different, but once you all understand the basics, like I mentioned, the components and the UI design components, all this will seem very familiar to you all. So that is why I mentioned, like, it's important to understand the basics before you are going to the development. Right. Okay, yeah, so let me try to share my screen. Right. You all can see, right? Hopefully, yeah. So this is Android Studio. I have already opened up a project here, which I will close. So, okay, I think that closed. Yeah. Hold on. I think my screen share stopped, right? Yeah, just give me a second. Let me get that back up running. All right.
It works. Yeah.
Okay, right. So this is Android Studio. Um, Once you open Android Studio, you'll be presented with a welcome screen like this. And what we are going to be doing is just starting a new Android Studio project. And once you click that, we are presented with project selection. So at first, this will be very, kind of scary looking, if I have to say, because there's like a lot of different things here. But all what we can do is we can just select empty activity. So I will explain to you all what this activity and all these other things are. You can select empty activity and say next. And then you can give a name for application. So I will just say hello world, hello world. And then we have something called a package name. So basically, a package name is once you publish your app to the App Store. This application will be published under this package name. So, for example, if you take the YouTube app, you can see the package name of the YouTube app here. So it's com.google.android.youtube. So likewise, we can also give a package name for our app. So how this format goes is pretty much like in the reverse of a website domain. So we call it a reverse domain name. So we can kind of say so you can even give your name or your initials or something like that. So I will just say Himash. And then we can even just say the application name, and I'll just say hello world here. Right. And this is the save location. And then we have language. So I will not go into this much at the moment. I think you all have this kind of covered in the previous session. So for Android development, now we have two options, Java and Kotlin. Kotlin is now a bit more, actually the more preferred language for Android development. You can still go with Java, but I would tell for you all who are starting out, to go ahead with Kotlin. It's the way to go. And yeah, you can say finish. So minimum API level, we don't have to worry at the moment. We can just go with the default. So what this just mean is like, what is the oldest Android operating system which this application will support. So usually this defined minimum API level is fine, but sometimes we might have problems supporting old operating systems. So you might prefer kind of going with a bit more of an up-to-date version. Right. So let's finish this. Okay. And so once that happens, you can see what you call in this IDE, the Android Studio IDE, there is a build panel here, which is kind of running the project build, because this Android project which we just created has a set of dependencies, like in order to sort of build this project, which we can then run on a particular device. So that is the first thing which happens once you create the project, as well as when you open Android Studio, this project build will run. So if everything goes well, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes you might have build issues. You might get it will say, what do you call, build failed, and you might have certain issues. So sometimes certain network issues also affect this. So you might have to kind of like read this output messages a bit carefully and see, okay, what is going on. Right. So when this is built, we can see this opens up two files called main activity.kt and activity_main.xml. As I showed earlier during the Android Studio walkthrough, we saw this kind of design, and I hope you can see mine. Yeah. So what our project did was, it actually builds one screen with one with the text "Hello World." So we didn't actually have to do it ourselves, but yeah. So I will tell you all what this is. So let me run this as well and show you the output. So I will be using Visor, like I mentioned before, to show my screen. Hopefully it runs. So you can see here at the bottom, you have a status saying Gradle build running. So I won't explain at the moment exactly what Gradle is. It's just kind of a build system which Android apps use to sort of build the project. So we don't need to worry about it at the moment. Yeah, so you can see this is Visor loading up. Yeah. So like I mentioned, this is my actual phone, and I can interact with it straight from my mouse and from my computer itself, which is very, very useful. Hopefully this runs. Yeah. Yeah, while it gets built, so I will kind of walk through this project, the folders, what has been given to us. So you can see a few folders here. It says manifest, Java, REST. Generated ones we don't have to worry about. Those are we can just ignore those, as well as some Gradle scripts. So let's start with the manifest. So basically manifest, yeah, I think might be a little bit, let me, yeah, you can see Hello World here running on my phone. So the manifest is basically, it's like a configuration file for your Android app. It kind of has the package name, what we gave earlier when we were creating the project, as well as the icon, which we are supposed to use for this app, as well as some other options as well. And one of the main important ones is the activity. So what exactly is an activity? So I think this is the most basic thing which you will need to know. And then once you are kind of familiar with it, you can get into it yourself. So basically, in simple terms, if I explain what an activity is, it's pretty much a window. So what you see here, this screen, Hello World, with this text here, that is an activity. So in this particular application, if you go into the Java folder, you can see that package name which I defined. And under that, I have one activity called main activity. And that main activity has one method, one function here. All it does is it's just setting a user the UI to this particular activity. So since this is a Java class, it's a Kotlin class, but it doesn't have the UI in this. So we don't define the UI within this particular class itself. Like if you take React Native or something like that, where we have the UI within the same class, it's not. It is something which exists separately. So this particular UI, if you take activity main, if you click on that, you can see it will navigate to it. And if you look at the project folder, you have a folder called res, which is shortened for resources. So whatever resources are needed for your application will be in this folder. So this terminology, all this, so you can, as you're getting on, you can kind of understand through the documentation as well. So we have a folder called layout. So layout is where we actually define all the UI user interfaces, which we will link it up, which we will link with a particular activity. So for example, if I create another new activity, so I can, so since you're beginning out, you all can really make use of the built-in assistance which Android Studio provides. For example, if you take here, if you go to new, you can say Kotlin find class and do it yourself, but we can make use of what is available. So you can say I need another empty activity, and then when you select that, you are again given a dialog. So there I can give again the activity name. So this is automatically saying main who activity, but like maybe we don't want that. So we will say another activity. And also you can see it's also asking us if we want to have this layout file generated for us, which is also helpful for us because then we don't have to manually create it and mention it in the code. So once we select finish, it will be linked. Also, you can see there's an option saying launch activity. So I will put that here. So, and I will explain to you what it is. And I will say finish. And then you can see here, it created another activity. And as well as the layout for that has been created here saying activity another. So we can rename these and do all those, that is there. But as a best practice, when you're starting out creating the file, it's good to sort of name them correctly. So I kind of mentioned that this should be the launch activity. So what that does is, if you go to the manifest, now you can see under application, I have two entries for activities. Main activity was already there before, and now it has added another activity as well. Yeah. So what this does is when we launch the application, let me kind of comment this out. So, this particular code here will tell us when I launch my application, I want this to be run first. So when you take an Android app, we will have now several activities. Now, if I go back to the YouTube example, YouTube has several activities. You can see this is one activity, and then the video playback is another activity. So there are several activities. So if you come back to our project, it's a similar story. So this could be like the home activity, then this is the video playback activity. And then if you go back to the UI of that, you can see it doesn't have anything, but I can add a button. And I will have my own UI elements and all that in this particular screen. Also, I will just briefly touch upon the layouting system before we wrap up. So Android has a concept called layouts. So although now I place this button, it doesn't necessarily, if I run this, let's see if I can run this. It will not. So what we would hope that is that when I run this, this button will like appear here in the position where we see, but let's see. Yeah, I hope it will run. It's a bit slow on my machine at the moment, but that's fine. So let me just briefly explain. So how we place these UI buttons, we place it on something called, yes, you can see it, Brand. So like I said, although the button was displaying to us over here, when we ran it, it's on the top left corner of the screen. So the reason being, as you can see, if you take this component tree, we have something called a constraint layout. So inside the UI of an activity, we have to have something called a layout. So that layout, inside that layout is where we place all our UI components. And since since we are designing to different kind of devices and screen sizes, we kind of design this UI in a way that whatever device my screen app runs, it will look the same. So let me fix this. So you can see when I click on this button, you are presented with this kind of circles here. So these are called the constraint handles. What this does is pretty much we can kind of align this within the boundaries of this constraint layout. So all I'm doing is I'm just going to sort of center this, right? So now, hopefully, when I run this, we will see this in the center of the screen. Right. So that kind of covers pretty much the very minimal parts of an Android app. Yes, you can see. So now it's right in the middle. So we can actually see from Android Studio itself. So this is a very, very kind of a advanced tool. I think you all will spend a bit more time if you're going into Android development to kind of understand this as well. We can see within here itself the different types of phones and the screen sizes. For example, now what we're seeing is 5-inch phone. So I can change this to maybe a 5.7-inch, maybe even like a tab. Right. So you can see whatever I change, my button remains in the same location. Right. So with that, I think my demo and presentation is coming to a conclusion. So I think if we have Any questions? You can feel free to ask. I think I have about 5 minutes left.
Yeah, I don't see many technical questions in the chat today. I think mostly, I think everyone learned a few new stuff that we will go and play around with them. Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So there's Anura.
One question.
Yeah, Anura is having one question. C# can be used with mobile development.
Yes. So C#. Let me kind of share my screen. I think that would be a quick way of answering your question. We have something called Xamarin, which is again a cross-platform app development framework, just like React Native. The main difference here is you develop using C#. So to answer your question, we can use C#, but Xamarin has its own sort of way of building apps. So I think my advice to you again is get familiar with the basics, like I mentioned. Once you are kind of okay with the basics, I think you can go into Xamarin. Yeah. So I'll just put it in the chat as well. Xamarin for C#. You are talking about cross-platform, you prefer Flutter. Yeah, Flutter is fine. Actually, when it comes to cross-platform, I would say Flutter is kind of becoming the #1 at the moment. It's gaining a lot of traction with enterprise as well. So once, like I mentioned, once you all are familiar with the basics, I think you all can learn Flutter as well. There's nothing hard and fast about mobile development these days. I think it has become very mature compared to 4 or 5 years back. Everything is kind of stabilized, and like there's much more examples out there when it comes to even starting out, like I showed with Android. There are code labs, there are getting started guides. So same with Flutter. I think it's quite easy to start with Flutter as well. I think we'll not talk much about performance. I think it might be a little bit advanced, but I think what I mean is sometimes you might get this question from people saying, okay, if I develop in React Native or Xamarin or Flutter, like, will it kind of have a performance impact? But I think that is something which we don't have to worry about at this point. Just the only thing I will say is Android native, iOS native is much more performant. So if anybody asks you that, like, you can have that in mind. But nowadays Flutter is, they are saying it's much more faster than even native Android. So we will see. I think if you are going to get into app development, I think it's good to kind of get into maybe Android or iOS if you can, native Android or iOS, and then kind of move on to the cross-platform areas. Yeah, there's a question on communities. Yes, I think the biggest community is kind of Stack Overflow. I think that is where you can learn kind of very basic stuff. Like I mentioned, even the simple issue of Gradle builds failing. You can kind of see a lot of people having the same issues where they are posted, okay, like my project is not building, I'm getting this kind of error. So Stack Overflow, there are people who have already experienced these things. They have posted their experiences, and even so little things like, you know, developing UIs. You might have a question like, I can't align two buttons or something. Okay, so there are people who have already, you know, faced such issues, and they've asked. So Stack Overflow is one. So I will put the link for that. Stack Overflow. They have a separate Android community. So likewise for even Xamarin, Flutter, you will find in Stack Overflow. Linux virtual machine. I think any virtual machine, you will have performance issues, but if you can directly use Linux, I think that would be better, I guess. Yeah. Different in Kotlin and Java. Yeah, Kotlin and Java, to simply say, I think Kotlin is a much more simpler programming language than Java. They have kind of made it easier for you to program compared to Java, but there isn't much of a performance difference compared to the two. I would think if you're going forward, because even Android, Google is kind of asking all the developers to write the applications in Kotlin. So I would say that is definitely something which is something you can consider when you are going to start learning Android development. Yeah. There's a question by Shehan. I think Sachit might be able to answer that.
Yeah, so Shahan asks whether we teach it fully to develop the application also in the coding part as well. Yes, we'll take it step by step. Our aim is for you to give the total knowledge so that you could build your own consumer applications. Yeah, so we will take it step by step, Shahan. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I think maybe this session, I also wanted to, my objective was to make you all look at the best practices and like the basics. So I think maybe I hope you can, after this session, kind of go through those guidelines and those components and things like that. Also look at what is there in the marketplaces, like the app stores, what kind of apps there is, okay, what are they doing? Like if you take, we know there are a lot of common applications which we use day to day, but there are a lot of other applications which we don't know. So you can kind of go through them and see. The easiest way is to just go through to the Play Store, and you can just go through the different categories and look at the user designs, the screens which they have provided. Then you can sort of get an understanding. Sometimes you might have a similar idea for an application which already might be there in the App Store. So then you can see, okay, maybe this is something I can do maybe slightly better. Yeah, I think we'll take this as a last question. Are there enough online support for Kotlin? Yes, there is. I think I will provide that link in the chat. So there is also a course which is provided, which you can go through. I think this is something related to Android. Also, you have a kind of this is kind of a playground, so you can code in the browser itself and see what's running. Yeah. I think if there's one more question, we can take that. Would that be it?
Yeah. Yes, I think yeah, 7 minutes past.
Yeah, I think we can wrap up.
Yeah. Yeah. So Chadika, over to you.
On behalf of the ICT Industry Skills Council, I take this opportunity to thank Himesh Hatharasinghe for conducting this valuable session. It was very informative. I think most of the people here got a maximum benefit from the program. And we will be sharing this presentation with you all by tomorrow, day after. And I want to make a small correction. In the beginning, I mentioned that the first session of the mobile application development was done by Sachit, but it was conducted by Kalana Vijaysekar of 99X Technology. Sachit is anyway with us. He is heading technical training initiative of the ICT Skills Council. He is representing 99X Technology as well. He's a board director of ICT Skills Council. Thank you, Sachit, for organizing this session. Himesh, thank you very much for taking your valuable time out from your busy schedule. And thank you very much for the participants. There were 42 participants at today's session.
Yeah.
And
so please, small addition, Chadika, please mention, guys, this to all the participants, please mention your ideas in the feedback survey and also about the new topics on you'd like to listen from us. Yeah, thanks, Chadika.
Yeah, and also this is a series of workshops and webinars that we organize, and every Tuesday, based on the convenience of the resource person, we will let you know the time. Anyway, we are continuing this session on every Tuesday. So Sachit, we can wind off the session.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thanks, everyone. And thank you, Himesh.
Thank you all. Okay.
Thanks for all the participants. Thank you.